Hey there, folks. Welcome back to Water Cooler Quarterback, where we act like we know things about football. Week 2 is officially in the books, and with that, it's time to take a look at what is going on around the NFL. There's plenty of teams doing great. The Bills and Chiefs have seemingly gotten back on track. The 49ers look complete in every facet of the game, and even the Buccaneers seem to be exceeding everybody's expectations. And while that's all good and fine, who's really down in the dumps? Who's underperforming? Who needs to panic? Today, we're going to take a look at a few of the 0-2 teams from around the league and determine whether or not they should be freaking out yet. And we're going to do so by rating them on the Water Cooler Quarterback Panic Meter. So let's take a look at all of the teams that are currently 0-2. We have the Vikings, Bengals, and Chargers. There's also the Bears, Texans, and Cardinals, along with the Broncos and the Patriots. And after Monday Night Football, the Panthers also fell to 0-2. All of these teams are winless through the first 2 weeks of the season, and that spells trouble. Because you see, since the playoffs expanded to include 14 teams back in 2020, 23 teams have gone 0-2. Of those 23 teams, only one has made the postseason. So if your team is currently 0-2, don't worry, you still have a 4.3% chance of making the playoffs. So now that all of you 0-2 fans are officially terrified, let's see where you rank on the panic meter. First up, we've got the Houston Texans. Now, the Texans are only at a 2 on the panic meter, and the reason that they're so low is because, well, so are their expectations for the season. Yes, like all these other teams, they are 0-2, and that's no way to start the season, but there is some reason for some optimism. First of all, the second overall pick of the draft, CJ Stroud, is looking pretty good. When he's not being sacked, he's throwing for an average of over 300 yards a game, and he has managed to throw 0 interceptions in that time. The third overall pick, Will Anderson, has already logged a sack on the young season, and it seems that the receiving core, who many didn't think much of, seem to be making some pretty good plays. The only reason I gave them a 2 on this scale and not a 1 is because of what they had to give up to go get Stroud and Anderson. Without their first-round pick next year, it may be tough to keep adding talent to this team, and if they're maybe just 1 or 2 pieces away, missing that first-round pick is going to be costly. So hopefully things work out for the team and they don't end up missing that pick in 2024. Next up, we have got the Cardinals, and like the Texans, expectations are at an all-time low. And though they have been playing better than I expected them to, I'm gonna stick them at a 3 here on the panic meter. Why a 3 for the team that the entire NFL considers the worst in the league? Well, because any team that has a 21-point lead in the third quarter should be able to put that game away. I don't care who's hurt, who's throwing the ball, or who's coaching. If you are up by 3 touchdowns in the third quarter, there is no reason you should be losing that lead. So while the team looked all right in week 1 and pretty good, at least for the first half of week 2, I am a little concerned what that second half collapse could mean for the future. Regardless, this team with a healthy Kyler Murray could easily be 2-0. We're biding our time, dealing with whatever this season brings, and we'll see y'all in 2024. Now we're going to take a bit of a jump up the panic meter all the way up to 7 with the Chicago Bears. Look, I was on this hype train with all you Bears fans out there. I really was. I was all in on Justin Fields, especially now that he's got a new best friend in DJ Moore on the team. But the fact is, this team has looked awful. 0-2 to the Packers and the Buccaneers? Really? That is not acceptable given all the smack talk that Chicago fans were talking heading into the season. Fields has to be better. He's a running quarterback, and in week 2 had only 4 rushing attempts for 3 yards. That should not be his stat line at the end of a game for the rest of his career. He's staying in the pocket way too long, missing wide open wide receivers, and I don't really know what's going on with Fields, but something about this offense needs to change. Whatever they were doing at the back half of the season last year needs to be brought back. If his first read or his second read isn't there, the play needs to be designed to make sure he has got blockers for him to take off and run. So I'm pretty nervous for the Bears moving forward because things do not look good. Now, I might really blow my lid on this one because I am so sick of this team's nonsense. The LA Chargers continue to prove me wrong in the worst way possible. I've defended them and sung their praises for years now, and every year, week in and week out, it's the exact same story. Herbert threw for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, and that wasn't good enough to beat the Titans? The team that averaged less than 18 points a game last year? Last week, Ryan Tannehill threw for under 200 yards and had 3 interceptions, and you give up 27 points to this guy? Head coach Brandon Staley seems to be more defensive in his press conferences than he is on the field.
I'm not worried about the Jacksonville loss. The Jacksonville loss hasn't carried on to the season whatsoever. But it has nothing to do with the Jacksonville game. It's a convenient storyline for you and for everybody else, but it's not the truth. Yeah, we just lost a game in overtime, Jeff. So how do you think the mood is?
I'm so done. This guy's got to go. Promote Kellen Moore, for goodness sakes. I mean, this is ridiculous. 2 weeks in a row now, on potentially game-winning drives, the O-line has just collapsed and allowed Herbert to get sacked, basically sealing their fate and ending the game. If I'm a Chargers fan, I'm livid. The only reason they're not higher on this meter is because I like the way the offense played with 2 completely different game plans. Week 1, they ran the heck out of the ball, and week 2, they showed that they can also air it out. So they're able to get their yards and get their points regardless of what the defense shows them. And thank goodness they're only 1 game back from the division lead. They play the Vikings this week, who should also be panicking a little bit, so whoever loses this game, y'all might as well just hang it up and get ready for next season. But the height of the panic meter at a full-on 10 are the Cincinnati Bengals. After a pitiful showing against the Browns in week 1, the Bengals lose yet again to another division rival in the Baltimore Ravens. Burrow looked much better in week 2, managing to find T. Higgins for 2 touchdowns, but this team just does not look good right now. I mean, it took them 6 quarters of football to score 1 offensive touchdown. This is the Bengals we're talking about. You have the highest paid quarterback in history, and it takes you 6 quarters to get 1 touchdown? Yikes, guys. They allowed Lamar Jackson to have a near perfect day, not sacking him a single time. Joe Burrow has re-aggravated his calf injury, and now they find themselves 0-2 within their division to start the year. These guys are so high on the panic meter because we simply expected so much more from them. The Bengals are constantly in the same conversation as the Bills and the Chiefs. I mean, they make up the big 3. But if this level of play keeps up much longer, we're not going to be able to talk about them in the same breath. So Cincy, y'all have got to figure this out, and quick. Well, that does it for me, folks, on today's episode of Water Cooler Quarterback. If your team is 0-2, please let me know how much you are panicking down in the comments. Be sure to like this video and subscribe if you want more, because we've got a lot more coming all season long. Until next time, my name is Andrew, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.